We're all basically three wusses, and if we give these talks and don't cry, there's something wrong with us. So I think we all achieved that today. So I would like to open the floor to questions, and maybe John and Kathy can come up too if you've got any questions. We'd love to answer them. Yes.
So with Sunrise 3, is that actually up and running?
You asked if Sunrise 3 is up and running. We started actually putting the piles into the ground in January, and I'd say in less than, what are we talking about? We're talking about 9 months?
We're talking about August to move the first children
into the first house, like all the little cottages. We're not going to build them all and then wait for the whole project to finish. We're going to build cottage by cottage by cottage. Once the cottage is ready, fill it up and bring them in. So we're saying August, the first cottage will be ready, in the first group of, is it 14 children in a cottage? 12 in a cottage.
There's already 20 children accepted, already in the program, that will move over and 6 staff. So it's up and running, but not where in the location.
And just to give you an idea, it's 20 kilometres from the port and the beaches. It's only about or maybe half a kilometre back from the main road, so it's very easy to visit. And it's in a lovely rural area on a lovely piece of land with trees, and we're really looking forward to making it look like a real home. Another question? Yes? Do I need more staff? What we pride ourselves on giving staff, local staff jobs. It's important that the local staff are Cambodian, that the children relate to their new mothers and fathers in the centre. So no, we don't need staff. John and Kathy will be employing new staff, but they'll all be Khmer. Okay, another question? Yes.
You touched on what happens to the kids after they grow up.
Mm-hmm.
And the sustainability of each of the villages. What sort of programs are ongoing from, I don't know, the age of 16? So is there a program to create more work within the villages and get the kids to work back with the villages?
Well, in the case of Sunrise 1, we've had an assistant manager who was a previous kid come and work with us. We've had a nanny who was a previous child, and she left when she was 18 and had bad experiences outside and came back and said she wanted to be a nanny and be part of the family again. And we've had farm hands that weren't ever going to sort of finish grade 12 or be white-collar workers that said they wanted to work on our farms. So we do welcome kids to come back and give back. I don't know yet what John has done with children who have reached 18 yet. What do you do with your kids, John, when they reach 18?
We have a good problem in that the kids are still alive. Before the program started, they all died in their teens. Understand these kids were all affected at birth. So to live 18, 19 years with the virus without medicine didn't happen. You died in your teenage years. Now they're living. We have 10 in Phnom Penh, 8 in vocational school, 2 going to university. That will be expanded to 25 children next year, and they will continue to, we're transitioning them into the workforce or into university. We're raising separate funding for that. HIV gets a little more difficult to send them overseas for education because of visa requirements. In some places it's hard to be accepted at a university if you have HIV. We have one girl who's been accepted to Stanford, and we have $200,000 pledged for her education at Stanford. We have a few miracles there. But the wonderful problem we have is we have to transition kids who had no hope before, and now they're going to live. The question we get many times, and I'll answer in advance, is these kids will live as long as most of you. They have a normal life expectancy. HIV is now a chronic disease, not a terminal disease. So as long as the medicine's available, and people like the Clinton Foundation who provides our medicine continue to do it, these children have a life. So that's why we have to educate them and move them on.
Another question.
With regards to education, do they go to local schools?
All the children in their centre and ours, they go to the local schools and do the local government curriculum. But at Sunrise 1, when they come back from that, for the other half of the day, we have extra classes for English, computer, music, dance and sewing, and so does John and Kathy. A lot of other orphanages there, the kids come home from school and they don't have anything else to do for the rest of the day. But with all our kids that are suffering from emotional trauma, post-traumatic stress and so on, it's important to keep them busy, and our kids are really busy. We keep them busy, yeah. Another question? Yes?
You mentioned some of the women and, not having the ability to support their children, and assume that's to break the poverty cycle. Do you do any microfinance, or is that?
No, we haven't started doing microfinance yet. With the community programs that we are going to start doing to keep families together, it will be, we won't be asking them to repay. Like if we build them a small little house, that'll come out of our seed money, and we won't be asking them to pay that back, but we will be asking them to sustain their income and show us that they can keep their children healthy and going to school. Yeah.
On that note, I've already started a quilt project, and my widows, because you remember all my women are AIDS, so their husbands have already died of the virus. So I've started a quilt project, and these women make quilts, and their children go to my daycare. So I can keep an eye on their children because their children got HIV. But at the same time, she's got a living that she could be able to support herself. The only problem is, I make quilts. Well, it's 100 degrees in Cambodia. Not very many people want quilts. So I'm trying to get export of people in Australia and in the United States to be able to buy these quilts. And then that supports the women.
They're beautiful quilts too. They're mainly for children's beds, and they've got elephants and geckos and turtles, and they're really beautiful things to have on children's beds.
They're available on our website.
Yes?
Geraldine, do any of the children get adopted out?
No, the children don't get adopted out in Cambodia. Western societies don't really accept children that they don't know. Well, for instance, with orphans, they don't know what star sign they are, they don't know any of the family history, so they're a bit reluctant to care for children that are not their own. And if they do want to foster a child, it's usually to be an extra worker in the house, an extra pair of hands in the rice paddy, someone to help mum with the washing and cooking. It's not a real family thing. The child is not treated like the other children. And because the corruption is so bad in the adoption business in Cambodia, the adoption has been banned now for nearly 3 years because children were being sold and stolen, and in some cases bought from a poor person for $6 and then sold into an adoption agency. And rich people who had their papers in to adopt would come to Cambodia and offer $1,000 to have their paper brought to the top of the pile so that they could jump the others that were there before them. $1,000 to a ministry official who gets $50 a month, pretty hard for him to resist that. So there's a new adoption law. Has the adoption law been passed yet? No.
The decree's not out yet.
Yeah, but they have worked on a new adoption law where there'll be a set fee that gets paid to the government and a set fee that gets paid to the orphanage, and there'll be no other payments accepted. But until that goes through legislation, there's no overseas adoption in Cambodia.
HIV children around the world are discriminated against. They're not allowed to be adopted by most countries because of healthcare needs, etc. They're not part of the mix. So.
Yeah, I have found it. One of my boys was part of the dance troupe coming to the Opera House in 2009, and because he had hepatitis B, just hepatitis B, he couldn't get his visa. So it's not easy if you don't have good health to get visas. Another question?
We tell the truth to the children about HIV. They learn at early age that they have the virus. They know that they have to take medicine on a regular basis. They have to adhere to it.
Twice a day.
We teach them safe sex. We promote condom use, etc. Please don't put this on the Vatican's YouTube. We teach them they're going to have to be responsible for the bodies and for the sexual activity. We've only had one girl. She was one of our long involved story, but one of our girls got pregnant from somebody we had terminated. She kept in touch with anyway.
She's 18.
She was 18. She got pregnant. We had a wedding in the village. She didn't have a mother or father. Kathy and I were mom and dad. We hired her husband to be our electrician. It's working out fine.
She's one of our little teachers now.
She's one of our teachers. She's infected and he's not infected, so we're working with him to avoid infection in his case. But they're a cute young couple with a little baby.
The baby was born negative.
And she was one of our musicians in Austria, so of course they named the baby Vienna.
I had one of my older boys get married, and he's a real soccer enthusiast, and he named his little boy FIFA. Another question.
Well, I guess that's better than gold.
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
any sort of public campaign in Cambodia around AIDS awareness?
John's best suited to answer that question.
There is the question was, is there any government campaigns about public awareness? Donors have donated millions of dollars for campaigns about awareness on HIV. So there's been newspaper, radio, television, etc. And because the epidemic, Cambodia has the biggest percentage of people infected in Asia. So many people know somebody who has HIV. So there is some awareness about it. And it's because of that, the infection rate has dropped. And you know, it's driven by prostitution. Condom use is more with prostitutes. So things are getting better. But yeah, there is some. But we don't know how effective it is, because when donors give millions of dollars, they want results, and the government, you know, results, statistics, as you all know, they can say whatever you want them to say. So we're not too sure how effective
All
it
we
is.
know is we get children, at least 2 kids a week.
We get 2 kids a week, new kids
A week. I just got 2 last week. These 2 was a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old. Mom and dad went to an aunt. Aunt is too old now to take care of the kids. She's going blind. They need to read the medicine. They have to know the medicine. So we're taking both girls in next week. And so we'll see. And there was one child that came to us. Mom was married, dad died. She went to Bangkok, remarried. The little girl got raped by the stepfather. She started begging on the streets of Bangkok. They jailed her. The little girl went with her mother to jail, to prison. She did her time. Then she came back to Cambodia. They shipped her back to Cambodia. The mother couldn't get a job, so what she started doing was selling little girls into sex trade. Well, she couldn't sell her little girl because her little girl was dark-skinned. They only want light little girls, not dark-skinned. She got arrested, put back in prison, again with the daughter. Mother died in prison of AIDS. The little girl was then sold into domestic help. The little girl started getting sick, took her in, got tested, she's HIV positive. That woman kicked her in the front yard and said, "Don't come back in my house." The neighbor picked her up, knew about us, brought the child to us. The little girl is 15, never been to school. Well, in the village, in our village, she goes to school in the morning to 1st grade.
To the public school.
In the afternoon, she goes to 1st grade at our school, and we're pushing her up to 2nd. So then next year she'll go into 3rd. We'll try to get her to 6th grade by the time she's 17. And then maybe we can put her in vocational
And she can go to
training.
vocational school. Imagine though you're in Cambodia, you're a rice farmer, as Geraldine's mentioned. You don't know much about HIV. Your brother dies, you take his children, and you're raising them. And then you find out one has HIV, and you have your biological children. And everybody tells you these children will infect your children. They won't, but you're afraid. So you abandon your brother's kids, who maybe it's the only family this child's ever known. Their brother died, and the uncles have been raising them for 4 or 5 years, and then those kids come to us, and the uncle drops them off at our gate, or where they come through many NGOs. We're the only group in the country that will accept children with HIV. So what happens is these kids have been traumatized and have been through so much, and that's how they come to us, with full-blown HIV, tuberculosis, and emotional trauma. So besides that, everything's going pretty well.